Imagine a man who looks like a Greek god, drives multi-million-dollar supercars barefoot, and throws parties on yachts that make cruise ships look modest. Some call him the Zeus of Monaco. But here's the twist. Behind the gold gates and flashing cameras, rumors swirl that he's not what he seems. Is he a billionaire genius, or the greatest illusionist of wealth the internet has ever seen? To understand the man they call the Zeus of Monaco, we need to go back long before the supercars, the yachts, and the whispers of unlimited wealth. His real name is Ilan Tobiana, born on November 2, 1971, in Paris, France. From the outside, his life today looks like a myth carved out of marble and gold. But his beginnings were anything but godlike. He didn't come from a royal dynasty or an oil empire. In fact, people close to his early years say his childhood was defined by something very different. A deep curiosity about money, status, and how the world's wealthiest seemed to bend reality in their favor. Growing up in modest surroundings, he was the kind of kid who would rather flip through business magazines than comic books. While others were dreaming about being football stars, he was dreaming about skyscrapers, bank accounts, and empires of his own. Fast forward a few decades, and you'll see the transformation that earned him his divine nickname. Tobiana's appearance alone is enough to stop people in their tracks. A mane of long white hair, a perfectly kept beard, piercing eyes that carry the intensity of someone who knows secrets he'll never tell. In Monaco, a city already filled with millionaires and celebrities, his look set him apart. People didn't just see him, they remembered him. He became a living brand before he even opened his mouth. And that's another thing, he almost never speaks. Scroll through his Instagram or TikTok and you'll notice something eerie. Unlike other influencers who fill their feeds with endless commentary, Tobiana lets silence do the talking. The images are enough. Him stepping barefoot into a Lamborghini. Him dining at tables covered in gold. Him surrounded by models who look like they were cast from a Hollywood fantasy. It's minimal, mysterious, and unforgettable. But how did he get from a Parisian childhood to becoming a modern-day symbol of excess and luxury? The first step came through his mind, not his money. Tobiana had an almost obsessive focus on knowledge, law, finance, real estate. He wasn't just interested in wealth, he wanted to understand the system that created it. That curiosity eventually pushed him to study law, specializing in real estate, where he began his career. For most people, working contracts and property disputes would be the height of ambition. But for him, it was only the starting point. And so the myth began to form. In Monaco, where perception matters just as much as reality, Tobiana reinvented himself not just as a lawyer, but as a persona, a figure that blurred the line between fact and fantasy. Some people saw a lawyer turned investor. Others saw a model and influencer. Many simply saw Zeus, a man who descended from nowhere, cloaked in mystery, surrounded by money, women, and possessions that seemed almost impossible. The truth? His roots were far more human. But every god needs an origin story, and for Ilan Tobiana, the world was only just beginning to hear it. Because the real question isn't just who he is, it's how he transformed into the Zeus of Monaco. And that story takes us straight into his rise to unimaginable wealth. When people see Ilan Tobiana today, draped in designer fabrics and stepping barefoot into supercars worth more than most homes, they assume he must have inherited an endless fortune. But the truth is more fascinating. Tobiana built his empire step by step, move by move, like a master chess player who always thinks 10 turns ahead. It began with the law. After his studies, he took a position in real estate law, a world full of contracts, negotiations, and disputes that would bore most people to tears. But not him. Tobiana wasn't just reading the fine print. He was studying the game. He saw how fortunes changed hands with a single deal, how billion-dollar empires were secured with just one signature. For most lawyers, cases were work. For Tobiana, they were lessons. Eventually, the cases were no longer enough. He didn't want to stand on the sidelines drafting documents while other men got rich. He wanted to be in the room where the money was made. So, he pivoted. Instead of managing real estate contracts, he began investing in properties himself. At first, they were modest deals, small buildings in the right neighborhoods. But Tobiana had one gift that set him apart: timing. He had a sixth sense for knowing when an area would rise, when a property was undervalued, when a market was about to explode. And then came the legend. Rumors spread that in his 20s he put money into a small tech startup. At the time, few believed in the company, but Tobiana did. When the startup took off, his gamble paid out far beyond anyone's expectations. Overnight, he had a fortune. He used it not for luxury, not yet, but as seed money, fuel to keep expanding into real estate, businesses, and luxury projects across Europe. His reputation grew. Everything Tobiana touched seemed to turn to gold. Unlike many flashy investors who lose it all, he built layer upon layer: properties, companies, brands. And while most people would stop once they'd made tens of millions, Tobiana didn't know how to stop. His fortune climbed into the hundreds of millions, and maybe, if whispers are true, even higher. But money alone wasn't enough. He had something else in mind: visibility. Not the kind of visibility you buy with ads, but the kind you build through mystique. Because while his investments were making him richer, it was his next move that would make him unforgettable. And that's where the legend of Zeus truly begins. With wealth secured, Tobiana could have easily disappeared into the shadows, living quietly among Monaco's other millionaires. But he chose a different path, one that turned him into a living myth. Instead of speaking at conferences or giving interviews like most businessmen, he built a presence online. Instagram, TikTok, social media platforms already filled with luxury influencers. But here's where he did something unusual. He said nothing. No captions about hustle culture, no motivational speeches, no advice about investments. Just images and videos. Him surrounded by women, walking barefoot to his car, lounging on yachts. His long white hair catching the light like something out of a Renaissance painting. And people noticed. In a world where everyone fights to be louder, Tobiana stood out by being silent. He turned minimalism into power. His pages exploded. Over 950,000 Instagram followers, more than 1.7 million TikTok fans, all watching, speculating, and wondering about the man behind the beard. But with fame came criticism. The internet isn't kind to mysteries. Some users accused him of being nothing more than a pretender, pointing out that he often wore the same clothes in multiple appearances. A man with endless money, they argued, wouldn't repeat outfits. Some went even further, spreading bizarre rumors that he was actually homeless, a drifter who somehow lucked into luxury. And yet, the criticisms only added fuel to the fire. Every accusation, every conspiracy, only made him trend higher. Fans rushed to defend him. Others shared his videos just to mock him, but in doing so, gave him more visibility. In the strange economy of attention, Tobiana was winning. He had become what no amount of money could buy. A myth, a character that blurred the line between fact and fantasy. Was he a billionaire recluse? A genius investor? A social media illusionist? No one could say for certain, and that was exactly how he wanted it. And as his influence spread, so did the stories about his possessions. Because nothing captures attention quite like the absurd toys of the ultra-rich. And his collection? That's where the legend goes from curious to unbelievable. When most people think of luxury cars, they imagine owning one or two dream vehicles. A Ferrari for weekends, maybe a Porsche for daily drives. But for Ilan Tobiana, the Zeus of Monaco, cars aren't just transportation. They're symbols, status, extensions of his persona. And his collection is the kind of garage that even seasoned car spotters whisper about in disbelief. Let's start with the Lamborghini Aventador. For Zeus, one wasn't enough. He owns at least two. One in sleek black, like a shadow gliding through the streets of Monaco, and another in blazing orange for the days he wants every camera on him. Each costs well over $200,000, but in his world, they're more like accessories than investments. He's often spotted stepping into them barefoot, which only adds to his eccentricity. To him, luxury doesn't mean following rules, it means breaking them in style. Then there's the Lamborghini Urus, a super SUV that combines family practicality with brute power. Valued at over $230,000, it's his answer to the question, what does a god drive when he's running errands? The answer, still a Lamborghini. But Zeus doesn't limit himself to one brand. Among his Italian stable is a Ferrari, rumored to be worth nearly $500,000. While the exact model remains uncertain, what's clear is that this wasn't just a casual purchase, it was a statement. Lamborghini may roar, but sometimes Italian finesse is what turns heads. And then there are the rare gems. Like the Da Vinci D12, a futuristic hypercar valued at a staggering $2.2 million. It's not just rare, it's practically a piece of art, something most people will never see in real life. He also has a Da Vinci luxury build in progress, reportedly worth around $779,000, because even when you already own the extraordinary, anticipation itself becomes part of the thrill. Of course, motorcycles make their appearance too. A Ducati, sleek and aggressive, valued anywhere between $15,000 and $65,000, for when he craves speed with the wind in his face. And then there's the wild card, the Batmobile. Yes, you heard that right? A fully customized machine that looks like it drove straight out of Gotham City. For Tobiana, reality bends to his will. If he wants to drive like a superhero, he does. But what makes his collection stand out isn't just the money. It's the way he embodies it. He doesn't just drive cars, he performs with them. Every time he steps into one, cameras roll, bystanders gawk, and social media explodes. For Zeus of Monaco, cars are more than horsepower. They're part of the mythology. And yet, as jaw-dropping as his cars may be, they pale in comparison to what waits for him when he returns home. Because Zeus doesn't just own cars, he lives in a palace that could rival the gods themselves. Monaco is a place where luxury is the baseline. Even ordinary homes here are worth millions. But Zeus of Monaco's residence isn't just a home, it's an empire. Perched on a hillside overlooking the Mediterranean, it dominates the skyline, like something from a fantasy film. And for Tobiana, it's not just real estate. It's proof that he lives in a world far removed from ours. From the outside, the estate looks like a cross between a five-star resort, a fortress, and a royal palace. Towering gates guard the entrance, rumored to open only with special codes known to a select few. Locals joke that it looks less like a house and more like the lair of a comic book supervillain. And in a way, they're not wrong. Step inside, and the extravagance only multiplies. Gold accents run through nearly every room. Even the mirrors are framed in gold, because in Tobiana's world, reflections deserve luxury too. Chandeliers glitter overhead, polished marble stretches across endless hallways, and every surface screams wealth. But for Zeus, it isn't just about showing off. It's about creating an environment where every detail reminds him, and everyone who visits, that he lives above the ordinary. Then there are the features. The rooftop boasts an infinity pool that blends seamlessly with the horizon. From here, he can look out across Monaco, the sea sparkling in the distance, as if the entire coastline is part of his personal view. Downstairs, a private cinema rivals commercial theaters, complete with recliners, massive screens, and popcorn machines that never run out. The gym is so lavishly equipped that professional athletes would be jealous. Every machine polished, every detail designed for more than just working out, but for working out in style. And then comes the garage, or rather, the museum, because calling it a garage doesn't do it justice. Inside sits his collection of hypercars, Bugattis, Ferraris, one-off custom builds, all displayed like priceless works of art. It's less of a storage space and more of a temple to automotive excess. Rumors even swirl about secret tunnels beneath the estate, hidden passageways that allow him to move unseen or escape in case of emergencies. Whether those tunnels are real or just urban legend, no one knows. But in the mythology of Zeus of Monaco, the line between fact and fantasy is blurry by design. For most people, this palace would be the pinnacle, the dream fulfilled. But for Tobiana, it was only one piece of his empire. Because as impressive as the house may be, his greatest symbols of wealth aren't anchored to the ground at all. They float. And his fleet of yachts would make even the richest royals blush. In Monaco, yachts aren't just boats, they're floating castles. To own one is to announce that you've entered the highest ranks of wealth. But for Ilan Tobiana, owning just one yacht would be far too modest. The man known as Zeus of Monaco commands an entire fleet. Each yacht in his collection is more than a vessel. It's a stage for extravagance. Step aboard, and you won't find cramped cabins or ordinary lounges. Instead, you're greeted by sprawling decks larger than luxury apartments. Some are equipped with private spas, infinity pools, outdoor cinemas, and even a helipad, because when you're Zeus, you don't waste time waiting at marinas. One of his yachts, whispered about in hushed tones around Monte Carlo's harbor, is said to feature a literal waterfall cascading down its decks. Yes, a man-made waterfall at sea. For most, it sounds like a fever dream. For Tobiana, it's just another Thursday. And then, there are the parties. Monaco's elite already know how to celebrate, but Zeus takes it to another level. His gatherings at sea have become the stuff of legend. A-list actors, top musicians, athletes, and even members of royalty have been spotted stepping off his decks, champagne still in hand, eyes glazed from nights that seem to last forever. These aren't just parties, they're spectacles. Guests leave not just entertained but initiated into the myth of Zeus. It's no exaggeration to say his yachts are floating empires. Each one blurs the line between leisure and luxury, excess and absurdity. For ordinary billionaires, a yacht is a statement. For Zeus, it's a fleet of moving palaces that keep his legend alive, sailing from one glamorous coast to the next. And yet even the sea wasn't enough to contain him. Because when the waters end, the skies begin. And Zeus of Monaco rules there too. Flying first class is already a luxury for most people. But for Ilan Tobiana, first class might as well be economy. While the rest of us line up for boarding, he simply steps onto his own jets, flying fortresses disguised as aircraft designed not just for travel but for indulgence. Inside, forget about cramped rows of seats and overhead bins. His jets are designed like five-star hotels suspended in the sky. Plush leather lounges stretch across the cabin. Gold-plated accents glimmer along the walls. There are private bedrooms, complete with king-sized beds, so he can sleep as comfortably at 10,000 meters as he does on land. There's even talk of dedicated dining rooms, bars, and possibly a miniature club where the music plays while the plane crosses oceans. Every detail is designed to scream one message: Zeus doesn't travel. He reigns, even in the air. And the destinations, they're just as extravagant as the journey. He's spotted across the Caribbean, soaking in turquoise waters one week, then in Italy, sipping wine along the Amalfi Coast the next. The French Riviera, Ibiza, Dubai, you name a playground for the ultra-wealthy, and chances are Zeus has touched down there. For most, air travel is a chore. Security lines, crowded airports, and restless hours in uncomfortable seats. But for Tobiana, it's an extension of his empire. When he flies, he doesn't just go from point A to point B. He takes the luxury of Monaco with him, leaving trails of curiosity and envy wherever he lands. And yet, for all the riches, cars, palaces, yachts, and jets, the most fascinating thing about Zeus isn't the possessions, it's the mystery. Because as much as he shows the world, there are shadows around his story that raise even bigger questions. And those questions take us to the rumors, controversies, and contradictions that keep his legend alive. For every display of luxury that Zeus of Monaco puts into the spotlight, there's a shadow of doubt cast by the internet. And if there's one thing the online world loves more than idolizing the rich, it's questioning whether their wealth is real. One of the most persistent rumors about Ilan Tobiana is that he's not actually wealthy at all, that his entire lifestyle is one giant illusion. Critics point to the fact that he often wears the same outfits in public appearances. A man with unlimited money wouldn't recycle clothes, they argue. Others go further, spinning bizarre claims that he's essentially homeless, drifting through Monaco with borrowed cars, rented villas, and a carefully curated online persona. It sounds ridiculous, until you remember how well-crafted illusions can be. Social media thrives on perception, and no one plays the perception game quite like Tobiana. The silence on his platforms only adds fuel to the fire. Unlike other influencers who defend themselves, Zeus never responds. He doesn't clap back at critics, doesn't explain, doesn't even acknowledge the accusations. He simply continues posting images of himself, walking barefoot into Lamborghinis, or lounging on yachts. And somehow, that silence makes the rumors even louder. There are also whispers about how he really made his money. Was it smart investments in real estate and tech startups, as his supporters claim? Or did he stumble upon something else, some hidden deal, some lucky break, that catapulted him into a world far beyond ordinary wealth? Without public records or interviews, speculation fills the gaps. But here's the paradox. The more people doubt him, the stronger his myth grows. If he's truly a billionaire, his silence makes him untouchable. If he's faking it, his mastery of illusion makes him a genius in his own right. Either way, people can't look away. And maybe that's the real power of the Zeus of Monaco. Because in a world where everyone is desperate to explain themselves, Tobiana leaves the mystery unsolved. He's both an open book and a locked vault, showing us everything yet revealing nothing. And that leaves us with the ultimate question: what do we really see when we look at Zeus of Monaco? So who is Ilan Tobiana, the man they call the Zeus of Monaco? Is he a shrewd investor who built an empire from scratch, turning early struggles into unimaginable wealth? Or is he a master illusionist, someone who understands that in the age of Instagram, perception is reality, and mystery is the most valuable currency of all? What we know is this: he lives in a palace overlooking the Mediterranean, surrounded by gold and marble. He drives hypercars worth millions, collects yachts that look like floating cities, and flies on private jets designed like airborne palaces. He embodies the fantasy of modern luxury, so much so that people debate whether he's real or a character invented to embody excess itself. And maybe that's the point. Whether you see him as a billionaire genius or a carefully built myth, the Zeus of Monaco has accomplished something extraordinary. He's captured the world's attention in a way few can. He's not just living in luxury, He's living in our minds as a story we can't stop retelling. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether he's drinking champagne on his yacht or quietly laughing at the rumors from a Monaco cafe. What matters is that the legend of Zeus continues to grow, one post, one party, one whisper at a time. And while most of us debate whether to splurge on an extra topping for our burger, Zeus is deciding which supercar to take out for a spin, which coastline to dock his yacht at, or which golden room of his palace to sit in tonight. Is it excessive? Absolutely. Is it fascinating? Without a doubt. But above all, it's unforgettable. And that's why the Zeus of Monaco remains one of the most mysterious, luxurious, and controversial figures of our time.